It is time for this week
Next victim.
in the Lakeville Journal. Time for us to take a look at the stories that we're following in the Lakeville Journal. And we've got, of course, Cynthia in studio. Good morning, Cynthia.
Good morning.
And Janet on the telephone. Good morning, Janet.
Good morning.
All right. Well, it is another one of those mornings, snow to rain mornings here.
Yeah.
Opening up the front page of the Lakeville Journal. The 94th annual ski jumps, once again, the amazing volunteers working in and around the weather and getting some luck from Mother Nature. But what a huge crowd on Saturday, even a nice crowd on Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Really, really packed, really fun. Great weather to spectate. Nice and warm.
It was almost like there was no place to park on Saturday.
Right.
Zero. It was amazing.
Fantastic. A great 94th annual Jump Fest for the Salisbury Winter Sports Association. Different this year than in past years when there was a lot more stuff going on in town, but still plenty to draw people to the area. The Wonders of Winter Art Show continued on at the Academy Building and the White Hart. We'll talk about that inside a little bit. And just looking through the paper again this morning, we did a lot more photos just of the ski jumpers. Some years we do a lot of the in-flight shots. Some years we do a lot of the crowd shots. This is our year of photos of the jumpers. Beautiful picture by Randy O'Rourke on the top where you see the youngsters up at the top of the hill. I think people don't always realize how young these jumpers are. And nice portraits of them. They come from all over New England. We had one from Minnesota this year. And we've got some of the top results in this article and a couple more pictures on the inside.
All right, so the Salisbury Winter Sports Association ski jumps. All right, then we go from that, and I have to go from the ski jumps to there are signs of spring.
I feel like this is a little premature because, as we all know, spring won't really start until May 31st.
It stays lighter out longer, and that makes you feel a little bit better.
And the birds are starting to sing, but then it's hard when it snows really hard, so what can I say? But this is Bernie Drew, our beloved front page designer and editor and Nature's Notebook columnist, retired a couple weeks ago. Alexander Wilburn's been doing a beautiful job on laying out the front page. And so every 2 weeks now we have Tim Abbott from Houstonic Valley Association Green Print writing his very lyrical, lovely column. But on the alternating weeks, we're now trying something new, which is I'm putting together something more reminiscent of what Charlotte Reed used to do and Fred Baumgarten used to do, which is just observations of what's happening outside. Either it's completely normal, and this is the time of year when we see X, Y, or Z, or it's abnormal. So we have wonderful observations from Jody Bronson talking about finding deer antlers out in the woods. We have an illustration by Tilly Strauss, who's already seeing the blue tubes. If you see blue tubes tying together a bunch of trees, that's for maple sap collection.
Going up by Berkshire School the other day, I actually saw the first time the tubes that are all set up ready for the sap.
They're out. They're cleaning them out. They're getting them ready. I think Great Mountain Forest is doing theirs in the next week or so. Audubon, and of course, all statewide, everybody does their maple festivals in March, which is when traditionally you would start collecting sap. But really, everybody seems to be doing it mid to late February. So we'll see if it gets cold enough to really do an effective sap collection this year.
All right. And Cynthia and I were talking about this off air. A vote on the revised school sports plan is coming up tonight about the ABC. And it's amazing because the plan now completely rests upon the budgets of each individual town and each individual school in the town. And this is the way it should be set up. If that's what they're voting on, congratulations.
Right. It sounds great, and I think they're meeting later this afternoon. And it's not, I believe, my understanding is they're not voting as the all-board chair committee of the Region 1 board. They're voting because they are the chairman of the 6 regional boards, 7, I guess, and they happen to all be in one room together for this meeting. And my understanding is it no longer has to go to Region 1 because it is not part of the regional budget, which seems very sensible. And we'll hope that everybody supports it and it goes through.
Think they'll give me an award for posting that idea?
I just think it was I love it when you're right. Marshall.
Well, you know what? I love when I'm right because sometimes if it's a big enough issue, it overshadows all the times I'm wrong.
The short answer is yes, because common sense wins the day, and it's
a good idea.
It was a good idea.
All right, now you've got we turn the page, and sometimes this isn't done enough, but academic honors and achievements for area students. I think area students should be recognized.
We do try to run them whenever the schools send them to us. Sometimes parents send them in, but mostly we get them from the school. So if you have a child who has a notable achievement, please have the school send it to us. But also the remarkable thing about this page that you have not commented on is there is not a single police blotter item.
No.
And Alexander Wilburn, who does the cops column for us, always says every week, every police blotter is a chance for us to learn and do better. And so I guess we've all learned and done better this week.
Okay. What's on this page, though, which is great because there's a lot of regionals. Congratulations to our friends at the Sharon Daycare Center. They received their accreditation again.
Right, which is not like they hadn't been accredited before,
No.
but it's a continuing process and good for them.
And Maria Horn's going to be at Noble Horizons on March 3rd.
That's right. And we also have Johanna Hayes' people are going to be here February 19th and March 17th.
And a bunch of different other programs at the Hotchkiss Library, Noble, and the Tracking Wolves. I mean,
that's going to be cool. On
Yeah.
Saturday morning, February 15th, you can learn how to track with Sue Morris. Apparently, she's a very popular speaker. And if you aren't sure what to do with your sweetheart or by yourself on Valentine's Day, you can go listen to her talking about tracking fast cats.
and for Valentine's Day, you've got a heart wellness page.
That's right. Janet, do you want to talk about that?
Oh, sure. It's a gathering of all the opportunities in our area to feel better about yourself in so many different ways. So take a look through all these advertisers and say, yeah, you know what, middle of February, I'm ready to go to Lakeville Health Food and feel better about what I'm eating. And, you know, whatever is here that you can use, you'll be glad you read it. And don't miss Cynthia's story on the doTERRA bags that the Salisbury Rotary Club is sponsoring. And if you're wondering what they are, read the story. They're extremely useful, and we're happy to let you know about them.
All right. And you also on that same page a story by Patrick Sullivan, Managing Disease, Carrying Ticks, and Saving the Landscape.
It does feel like at this time of the year we're hearing a lot about ticks, and we've had this conversation before. But the ticks really are everywhere, and as the winters are getting warmer, there's not really the kill-off in winter that there used to be. So we had Scott Williams from the Connecticut Ag Experiment Station speaking at the Great Mountain Forest lecture series up in Norfolk this time. And not just talking about ticks and reminding us how to protect ourselves from them, but talking about the really significant way that these very small bugs are changing our landscape. Very sobering and worth reading. And then a Region 1 board meeting from Patrick talking about new bleachers for the sports.
Which I talked about earlier this week when I saw the video on this because they said those are the bleachers, the same bleachers that were fairly old when I got to Housatonic. And, you know, I never felt comfortable walking to the top. I just never did.
Yeah.
And it's about time that they upgrade them and fix them. So, yay.
Yay.
Now, I want to, we were lucky. Eddie Misa, who owns the Sharon Country Inn, and Kevin Bousquet and everybody at the Interlaken, they give back a lot to the community. They've got a story. You've got a story on the chefs. Well, Kevin called me at the beginning of this week to tie in with this story that was coming out on the chefs who were, once again, cooked for the James Beard dinner. They gave away, right now, to us, they gave us $500 packages for Valentine's Day.
Ooh.
And we asked for donations of $50 a package.
Wow.
And we got 4 or 5 couples that wanted to do it. So we made some money, $250 without having to do anything.
Great.
And the Interlaken gets to promote this Valentine's dinner, but also these two, the chefs at the Interlaken, have just done amazing work.
Yeah, the menus look really luscious, and it's Jim Corcoran and Dare Rooney, who's a local girl. I think her mom was at Allium. She was at Allium, and well-known local person. And Deb Alexinas did a beautiful profile as part of our Inside Scoop series, talking about the two of them, how they came to be cooking together, how they came to be here, but talking a lot about Showtown, which is the winter entertainment impresario couple. And they have a jazz brunch coming up February 22nd at the Interlaken, and it's going to be the release of a new CD by New Quartet.
And I think this weekend is the jazz brunch is for the Jane Lloyd Fund, I think.
I think that's right.
On
And
Sunday.
then they also have the Burger Night, which apparently is very popular.
Oh gosh, yeah. All right, and the student magazine covers are if people didn't see them, they're wild.
They're really good.
Yeah.
And so Arthur Getz, who is a Sharon person and the father of the beloved Sarah, yoga teacher, had been a famous New Yorker cover artist and had done a beautiful cover that was part of the Wonders of Winter show that Sarah Morrison and her other group of amazing volunteers put together to commemorate Jump Fest. So Warren Prindle had his students do a magazine cover design a session at their art class at Houstonic Valley Regional High School, and they put the covers on display at the White Hart. They're very good. And they had a People's Choice vote, and you can read about the winners in this article.
Right below that article, a nice story from Patrick Sullivan on a program I think a lot of people don't know exists. That's the STEAM program, Science, Technology, Engineering, for the arts and mathematics.
And it's interesting, I think STEAM started as STEM, which was really a way to sort of say, we really need to be teaching our kids about math and engineering in this country so we can keep up with other nations. And then people felt like, well, we really should put the arts in there. So that's how it became STEAM. So they had a week of STEAM activities at Salisbury Central, and I believe at other schools too.
All right. And something else I talked about earlier, which has been a long time coming, and that's some new sidewalks planned for Lakeville.
Yes, they're right near my house, right in my commute from my house to my gym. So looking forward to that. But an excellent plan, which is that the sidewalks will be built so that students can walk from Salisbury Central School to the firehouse if there is an emergency evacuation.
All right, and a nice story on Pamela Peters. Of course, Pamela and her beau.
Her husband, my dentist.
Both involved in the environment, of course. Dr. Nuia on narwhals, and Pamela Peters has been working with young children and students for a long time.
She's an environmental ecologist. She has an extraordinary background. I just love her. She's so much fun and interesting, and she and Martin, Dr. Nuia, my dentist, are a beautiful couple, and really are world explorers together, and somehow found each other in this little corner of the world. And she has come out with a new graphic novel starring her very handsome husband as a young scientist, and they're in search of the narwhal, which is his particular topic of interest. He's one of the world's experts on the narwhal, again, from here in Little Sharon. And it's an adventure story starring Pamela as a superhero and Dr. Nuia as a brilliant scientist. It's very cute.
All right. And right under that, our video is up on our CATV6 video page. The Board of Finance seat was filled in Sharon.
A lot of activity going on in Sharon at the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance after a pretty quiet run for those guys. Very feisty meeting, I understand, this week. A lot of conversation about how contracts are being awarded. Leela Hawken will have a story on that next week. This is a story about what may seem like a very boring dispute, but is not, about who gets to appoint a new member to fill a vacant seat on the Board of Finance. Very strong party pull. First Selectman Brent Cawley kind of saying, please, we just need somebody that knows how to do a budget. And new member of the Board of Selectmen saying we need to have more balance on these commissions and committees. So it's going to be an interesting year.
Let's throw in this story about how important the Board of Finance is. Over in Stanford, New York, a member of the Board of Selectmen, whatever it is, for Stanford, got his tax bill in the mail, and it was 65. It's a 65% reduction.
That's good.
Mistake. It was meant to be a 10% reduction, so now they've got to figure out how.
Yeah, who made that mistake?
Everybody in town got a 65% reduction instead of 10 because they can't afford 65% reduction.
That's rough.
That's an interesting story.
As Lou Timolette always says, in a democracy, you really have to pay attention. And sometimes these stories that seem so boring are the most important stories. And this is definitely what's happening in Sharon is very interesting, and people should pay attention.
All right. On to the next page. I talked about this earlier. The life-saving device for North Canaan. Charlotte hung for help. A lot of people helped to donate to make it possible.
And apparently most of the towns already have these, the Lucas chest compression device. And Brian Oler, Bill Manassi, and Tom Anderson did a very compelling presentation at the ambulance garage in North Canaan about how this. So instead of having to do CPR manually, which when you hear them describe it, you wonder how we've been doing this for 100 years or whatever. But amazing, and they now have these machines that do a perfectly efficient rhythmic pumping and still works as the ambulance volunteers are coming down the stairs or climbing down the side of a mountain, as happens, and allows them, as their volunteer companies are shrinking, to really give the best care to the patients. A
couple interesting stories out of North Canaan. First of all, Aquarian with their work, and then organic solutions being considered for the road conditions in the wintertime.
Yeah, North Canaan, not automatically the town you expect to be at the forefront of organic solutions, but they're considering using a new road product that's made from beets. And Leila Hawken, my reporter, keeps wondering if her shoes are going to get sticky with beet juice every time she walks into the building. But we'll see.
That's not a dumb question. With this new beet juice, it attaches to the bottom of your car. So you're really advised to go to a car wash that has one of those bottom things and get your car sprayed off, because it does attach yourself to the bottom of your car. But then there's stories out of Cornwall, one on the septic and one about the trees near the railroad tracks that were sprayed.
Yes, and so the ongoing conversation with the Houstonic Railroad Company about the spraying of those trees by the tracks, they, of course, want to keep the tracks clear, but they're killing some trees. They had been required by the state to check in with the town. Apparently they didn't. So meanwhile, there's a bunch of trees that are dead and they have to be taken down. And then the septic. And, again, another conversation about people wanting a lot of transparency and the dramatic tension between that and wanting to just get something done after it's already been discussed a lot.
All right. I want to move on to the opinion page, the editorial, a new look for local news coverage. And, Janet, you go into detail so readers of the Journal can understand that this very first, and believe it or not, even though it's big, small first step for you to go into the future.
That's right. Lest anyone forget, we are only here right now because our readers responded in an amazing way to our survey last October and our proposal for a membership model last November, and since then we've brought in more than $140,000 to support us for this next step for local journalism. The next steps we want to take, we want to be successful. We don't want to let our readers down. We want to be here for them. There are different discussions to be had, and one of them is, do we retain the membership model, which was so successful in its first year this year, or do we look at doing an application to the federal government to become a 501c3, a nonprofit, or do we do some combination of those two? So we've been talking to a lot of experts in the field and thinking about the best approach for a media company, a small, privately owned media company, to do this. And we would love our readers' thoughts on this. We have a lot of really smart people who read our publications, and we'd love to get your thoughts. So please do give this a read and let us know what you think about this.
It's interesting. I look at it as Jill and I, as basically owners of a small media company in Northwest Connecticut. We have a model that is, we're a 501c3, but we do accept different membership programs from different listeners to raise funds, simply because there's just not enough retail business left in this area anymore to support just solely on retail and underwriting. So I think this is a very wise step to take a look at what your options are and move ahead with the ones that are the best long-term options.
Exactly. Now, so since you bring that up, I'd love to know if those membership opportunities you have are defined by NPR, or is that something independent of that relationship?
Oh, no. Everything we do is defined for us by NPR, or actually the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the FCC. I think newspapers have an additional thing, but it's not. You're not a member of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, but there are rules that you have to follow to make it all legal
for a nonprofit.
For a nonprofit,
and for anything. And of course, nobody believes in rules more than journalists. So we love that. But
we always look at our support scenario like a bar stool. There's three legs. There's donations and members. There's grants, and then there's underwriting. Those are the, and if we don't have those three legs,
none can support. No one can. We can't do without, and everyone knows that we don't have enough of any of the three legs.
So, but I think it's a great step to look the long range into the future and get the listeners and the readers involved. So congratulations and good luck, because it's a lot of work to set it up. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and we are up to it, and we believe in it. And, we have, as far as the print papers that go out, more than 6,000 are out there every week for the Lakeville Journal and Millerton News that are seen and shared with others, too. So, that multiplies as far as who reads the paper. Our online presence is important, too, and that's another discussion for local journalism. We have the challenges of not having our population as well wired up as other areas. So do we continue to do as many print papers? Do we encourage people to read online as they do for so many other publications? Even people who live here read other publications online only. That's something we'd like to hear from people about, too. How do you prefer to look at it?
It's great. What we found out is you learn as you go, and you find out what's best as you go, and you do need participation from the people that read. So it's good.
That's the only reason we're here.
You'll have an exciting next year ahead of you.
Yes. And so any thoughts? And since this is your year to be right, Marshall, by all means, share your thoughts with us and let us know what you think.
All right. You've got a lot of letters, but I have to go back, turning back the pages.
Yeah.
And Cynthia and I talked about this last week. Nearly everyone's ice house has been filled, ice being 11 to 12 inches in thickness.
It's
100 years
incredible.
ago.
0.11 right now.
Right. Yeah, we do have good letters. Give them a read, and we have our science columnist Rich Kessin on the coronavirus. He did a lot of research. Lisa Wright is on aging in place, another one in the series on aging. Very interesting, very meaningful, whether you're aging yourself or your parents or grandparents, are very useful information. Bill Schmick on tax migration. We've all seen it. And Garth Koebel on supporting Pete Buttigieg.
And Peter Steiner.
And Peter Steiner, yes.
All right, let us move on to Compass. We have about 2.5 minutes left.
2.5 minutes, that's a long time. Okay, so my brilliant friend Tiffany Simmers wrote about Nick Adams, her neighbor, who is talking about the architecture of Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, one of the most important American international architecture firms known in modern times as SOM. He's giving a talk this Sunday at 4 o'clock. Read Divvy's article, because you may think, I don't care about this esoteric. Those Skidmore, Owings & Merrill buildings are everywhere. You've been in them, you've seen them, and Divvy will help you understand why it's fascinating. Alex Wilburn wrote about the upcoming cabaret show at Sharon Playhouse, what's known as close female harmony. Think about the Andrews Sisters. If you love that sound, then come to the Sharon Playhouse. Their next show is the 29th.
29th, but on the 22nd, they have the high school festival at the Bach Gallery, where I think there's 5 or 6 local high schools
And we have that in there, too.
Yep.
Students Performance School Theater Festival. Patrick Sullivan reviewing a new work by Alan First. Alan First, a very, very popular thriller writer. His books are generally set in World War II. So Patrick read it, said it's not his best effort, but find out why he thinks you should read it anyway. And that's kind of it for this. A lot of ads, a lot of calendar, fantastic stuff coming up in the area. Do give it a read.
Yeah, and I guess, Janet, I'll go back to you for just a second, because, like you said, your first step has been successful. It gets you into the next year. Once again, your readers should get involved with you, because you need to find the way that they want you to go forward to be successful. And so it's really important for people to communicate with you on this.
That is how we feel completely, and we not only invite you to connect with us by phone or email or write a letter, but stop in the office and see us. We will be doing, we've already done a focus group of people who are in nonprofits in the area and know what's going on. And we will continue to try to pull people into meetings in each of our towns as the year goes forward. But anybody who has thoughts about it, please share them, because we're only here because our readers value our being here, and we now know that, it's worth it to put the extra work in to find a way to make this work. And there's no real model. That is one model in this industry that people have agreed upon and said, this is what you should do and this will work. No, we are in many ways reinventing the wheel, as we have had to do over the course of the years, too. You have to be quick on your feet. And as you say, we can't depend on the retailers in the area. They have a hard enough struggle, making a go of it and being successful on their own. We welcome their advertising, but we can't expect them to do more than they can do, too. So we appreciate them. We appreciate our readers for circulation, and we want to be here for the next generation that wants local news. So.
All right, well,
to figure it out.
That's it. TricornerNews.com. Also, home delivery and on newsstands everywhere. We'll speak to you guys next week.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a good week.
All right, take care. That is This Week in the Lakeville Journal here on Robin Hood Radio.